Obviously, we're here to talk about Auston Matthews. First and foremost, you're watching this. What's going through your mind as you watch him score goal after goal after goal here?
Well, the two goals he scored last night, you give Auston the kind of time that they gave him on the first goal, he's going to score in those situations. He's just a pure shooter, and he's worked so much on his shooting that goal was classic. Auston Matthews, and just too much time. On the other one, that's one of my former players here. The defenseman in front of the net for New Jersey was Jonas Sigenthaler, and I think if anybody should know how good he is around the net, it should be him. And you got to not only tie up his stick, but you got to make sure that you don't allow him to get anywhere near that area of the net. So we're cheering for Auston. Obviously, everybody here is excited to see his quest for 70, and he still has a lot of fans in Zurich.
Yeah, I believe it, Mark. Obviously, the video last night of him walking down to the ladies' tee on Jake Allen, I felt for him because I've been in that position before, and guys like that don't miss from there. Getting to work with him early in his career, what have you seen, moving forward? And did you know he was going to be special when you first got to see him?
Absolutely. I've been fortunate enough in my time that I've had some really great players, whether you talk about Peter Forsberg coming in as a rookie, Joe Sakic as a young hockey player, Anze Kopitar, Jamie Benn, the list, I've coached in the league a long time, so I've seen a lot of good players. And I can remember when he came to Zurich, and it had been a while since I'd coached, maybe 2 years, and I went, oh, that's what a great player looks like. Oh, yeah, I remember that look. I remember that look. So you just knew right away when you saw him playing just how dynamic his talent was. On top of that, he's got an incredible work ethic. And I think that combination, he's worked at his game so hard over the years. When he was here, we used to do a drill, Carter, right at the start of the thing where guys would imitate the other guys. It's kind of like follow the leader. And Auston would be the leader against some of our guys. There were a lot of skilled older Swiss players, and they were looking at him going, how does he do it? He makes things look so effortless. And when they had to follow him as the leader, they were just like, oh my God, this kid's unbelievable. So we knew very early that he was going to be good. I tell this story, and I probably told it a couple times, maybe to Nick, but I can remember telling Pat Brisson, who was his agent at the time, I said, Pat, by the end of the year, he'll be the best player in the league. And I was wrong because he was the best player in the league right away.
Man, that's wild. And I think the unique thing about when he was drafted, a lot of the focus and emphasis was on Patrick Laine being the goal scorer of the two. Are you shocked at this guy being the goal scorer that he is? That we're already having this conversation. He's in his mid-20s. He could be the greatest goal scorer of all time, period. End stop.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And again, he works on it. I had Joe Sakic earlier in my career, and Joe was one of the masters at the deception that he had in his shooting. He could shoot so far back in his stance, and I'm sure Carter can tell you that's so hard for the goaltenders to pick up, and he has such a unique release that he can shoot at different points. And again, like that goal last night, if he's at the lady tees, he's going to score. He's just a pure shooter, but his release is the one that to me sets him apart. And now he's worked at his strength. He's worked at the ability to fend people's off. I think he's starting to score in the heavier traffic areas. I know that's something that he talked about working on for this year, and he certainly has accomplished that. And the next step for him is to do that when the checking gets really, really, really tight in the playoffs. And, it's hard for everybody to score, let alone if you're Auston Matthews. But I like the work that he's done and the thought process that he has heading into this playoffs.
Yeah, Mark, that's the truth. Guys like that, they're so deceptive. And I try to explain that to other people who haven't, obviously, I've got to play in the NHL. It's not how hard you shoot it at times. It's how you can fool the goalie with deception. And, for you, obviously getting to be on the Sens bench when he scored his four, what is that moment like for you as a guy? You're coaching with the Sens, but, obviously you have ties to Auston. That's got to be a unique situation that you were in.
I can remember watching his mother celebrate on every shot that he took, and I thought that was pretty unique. There's a great story. Guy Boucher, who's the assistant now for for Toronto. We were at the end of the second period, and he says, "Yeah," he says, "Auston's actually playing pretty well, isn't he?" I said, "Yeah, he's got 3 goals." So I'm sure Guy loves having him on his own team now, much better than trying to stop him on the other team. But yes, Auston, that was a remarkable night. And a lot of people forget we won that game in overtime, and it was an important 2 points for us because it probably set us on the way to being a playoff team. And that year we came within a whisker of getting to the Stanley Cup Finals.
It's true. Is there a specific skill set that you think he doesn't get enough credit for possessing?
I think it's the way he protects the puck. I think he's become so adept now at keeping the puck in his feet, at really being good at sensing now the defensemen and how they play. He's got such a good book on defensemen now. And I think that's what I'm seeing, anyways, is that he now knows who he's playing against, and he understands more than most players what it takes to beat certain defensemen, and that's experience. So again, I think all of those things bode well as he continues on in his learning curve of how to be a great player at the playoff time. And I would never underestimate Auston. I just think he's always a guy that's trying to strive to be a little bit better. He's got that quiet sort of way about him, and he doesn't show you maybe all the time outwardly the emotion that he's feeling inside. But believe me, he feels it tremendously. And again, I think the best part of his game is how hard he works at his game, and he works at specific things to make himself better.
Yeah, for me, I always found that humbling during my career as someone where we have our peers and we've all dedicated our lives to the game, and to have someone that is so much better and so much more elite, it's always so impressive. And he's one of those guys that I just can't put in a box. Where I think about Alex Ovechkin, he scored, I think, 9 goals on me in my career, where he's just a raw shooter. Where Auston can beat you in so many different ways. Do you truly believe he's the best goal scorer of all time, seeing him in live right now?
He's the best goal scorer right now. It's hard to put it in a category. I think that a lot of things change. That just the amount of personal coaching that there is now, and who knows how good people like Gordie Howe and Joe Sakic and John Beliveau and those guys would have been if they had some of these skill mentors that Auston has been exposed to. I just think the video analysis that they're exposed to, the shooting professionals, and really what it comes down to at the end, the one thing that's a similarity through the ages is guys that work at their game and guys that are committed to try and get better all the time. That's the one similarity. But the tools that Auston has, I mean, he's the best of his generation right now. And I don't think it's fair to say some of these other people, given those tools, might not have been as good or at least similarly good. But Auston is a remarkable scorer, that's for sure.
So doing the math, Crow, you're 6 hours ahead, but obviously you're watching the games. Full dedication to you. What do you make of this Maple Leafs team, and do you think they can finally push through this spring?
I had a good friend of mine who's a bigger Leaf fan than I am. I was a huge Leaf fan growing up. I loved Frank Mahovlich. He was my favorite player. Went to Davy Keon's hockey school, and I go a long way back with the Maple Leafs. So I talked to him the other day, and he says, "Who are you picking in the playoffs?" And I always go, I'm saying, it's the Leafs year. And, one of these years we're going to be right. We are going to be right. But I love their acquisition of Edmundson on defense. I think he's the kind of defenseman that they have needed. I mean, they thought they had that in Muzzins, but injuries kind of hurt him. But I think Edmundson is really a playoff style defenseman, and he takes a big burden off O'Reilly in terms of being the number one matchup guy, and it allows Morgan to play a little bit more freely. And I like the veteran experience that they've got if you can keep if you can keep some of their defensemen at lower minutes, it's really going to help the older guys. And again, one of these days they're going to have the right mix. And why not this year? It might be one of those years where everything falls into place.
That's like the slogan for Leafs Nation. Why not this year? I'll end you on this. Does Matthews get to 70 in your opinion?
Yeah, I think he's there. I think the 2 goals last night were crucial. I mean, he can score 2 goals in a shift, and like you said earlier, he scored 4 in his first game against us. So I've seen it happen so many times. And usually, his goal production is 2 goals every 3 games. So he's got to score it in 2. I think he's more than capable of doing that. And I think these games, there's going to be a couple of tight ones, but there's going to be one of them that's going to be a loose game, and he'll be poisoned in that game. That's for sure. And like we've said earlier, he's really worked at trying to score in the high pressure moments now. So I think he's kind of recognizing that these high pressure moments are what he's going to be seeing moving forward in the playoffs.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Roseau. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.